Hello. So in this video I'm going to give you a basic introduction to navigating sites at Penn State. So this is a WordPress powered personal website generator that Penn State offers you. If you've already built websites, particularly through WordPress, a lot of this will look very familiar. If you've never built websites before or never worked with WordPress, I'm going to give you some of the very basic information that you need, but then I'm going to encourage you to continue exploring sites beyond this. So you want to go to sites.psu.edu, that's the home page, and then right here you can just click Create a Site. And that's going to take you to this page. So first, with the site address, you want to think about what URL you want for your page. If you actually plan to use this as a professional page that you would, say, put on a resume or link to your social media or things like that, you may want to just use your name or something, your name and something professional. But you want it to be easy to remember. In terms of the site title, this can be changed later on, but this is what's actually going to show up on the web page itself. So again, you can go in and change this. I'll show you how to do that. But that's something you want to think about as well. And then the last thing on this basic approach is the privacy settings. So if you want your website to be publicly available through things like Google, you want to leave this with yes. If you don't want that, if you want this only to be, if you want this to only be available to people who have the URL, you click no. And again, this is something that you can adjust later on. So I'm going to go ahead and create this site. Okay, so I've now registered a new site. I'm already logged in through web access, but if you weren't, you would need to log in. But I'm just going to go directly to my site. And this is what it looks like. It's very basic, it's very simple. This is the default. So, you've got some options. This menu along the top has shortcuts to a lot of the stuff that you want to use. So we're going to talk about several of these things. We're going to talk about posts, we're going to talk about pages. We'll get to media and links, but not necessarily through these pages, and then we're going to talk about customization. So I'm going to start out with a new post. This is, I think, the easiest and most direct way to create the articles required for this personal website project. So I'm just going to call it Post 1. You will want to incorporate an actual title. And I'm actually going to go ahead and click Add Media. So this is not necessarily the first thing that you necessarily want to do. Oh, my computer's taking a long time. There we go. Okay. So actually I'm going to hold off on adding media for just a second. So basically this is easy and straightforward. You can type the article, you can choose different types of text, so you can, so let's say I wanted this to be a heading, and then so again, you can use this as a very basic approach to, or you can use this as a very straightforward structure for creating your articles. Another thing that you do want to do is to include links, because again, we're writing in a digital space here, and so links, things like this, images, these are really useful tools for connecting your reader to more information. So when you're creating a link, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can use what are called the hotkeys, which would be Control K or Command K if you're on a Mac, and that will pull up this option. The other thing that you can do is click this Insert or Edit Link button, and then I'm just going to put sites.psu.edu, but you would put whatever URL you want that link to go to, and then that link is active. Now, the other thing that you may want to do is to add media. So this could be images, videos, sound files, whatever it is. I'm going to select, just arbitrarily, the cover of Business Communication Essentials. So once you've got that, one thing that you probably want to do is add alternate text. So that's useful for anybody who their computer has difficulty displaying media. That gives you a description of what's in that thing. You can include more information and stuff about it if you want, but basically that's what you need. Now, the one actual thing I'll say about this, if you're using copyrighted media that you've gotten from some other location, use the caption section to include a proper citation so we know where that comes from. Anyway, then you click Insert Media, and there it is. Now, along the right-hand side here, you've got some useful things. So, I'm not going to worry too much about format. You can mess with that if you want to. You can create categories. Now, that's going to be useful if you're writing a lot of articles about different subjects. So let's say you were writing about business in general, you were writing about supply chain management, you were writing about sports business, etc., etc. You might want to create different categories for those to put them in to make it easier for your readers to find things that are similar. The other thing that you can do is create tags, and tags kind of work in a similar way to categories. So anything that's tagged business writing, for instance, people would be able to click on this tag on the page itself or on the post itself, and that would take them to a list of everything else that's tagged with business writing. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit publish right here. And that will publish. Aha. Okay. So now I'm actually going to open that link. I'm going to open it in a separate page. And we can see that post. Yay! The link works, we've got the image, etc., etc. Now I'm going to click that, the title of this page, and this will take me back to the home page. So now we've got post 1. That's the first thing that's showing up here. And I'm not super happy with that. I want something else to show up here as the default, but I'm gonna take you to that in a minute, because I want to first show you pages. So pages are things that are more stable. They're more so with posts, basically they get sort of they stack on top of one another, right? So this is actually the first post, the default post that Sites itself builds. Hello world. You're welcome to delete that. I probably would. And then this is my first post. So they stack on top of one another. But pages should be available through a menu, or can be available through a menu. I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. But I'm going to create a new page. And basically this functions the same way that building a post does. But I'm going to create a very specific page, and I recommend you create this page as well. I recommend you create an About Me page. And then I'm going to add another media file. This time, a picture of me. And then, once that is fully uploaded, again, I've created my alternate text. Once that's fully uploaded, I'm going to insert that into the page. There we go. Now you will sometimes get this thing. You can just click on that and then hit delete, because you don't actually need or want that necessarily. So I'm going to align this center, and then underneath, this is where I would put my professional bio. I don't know why that's looking like that. That I don't want to deal with. Oh, okay, so that's for some weird reason. Sorry, so that for some reason decided that what I was writing there would be linked to the image. So anyway, to get out of that, you apparently just hit delete. Anyway, this is where I would put my professional bio and links to any professional social media. So you have less options here in terms of links and tags and things like, or categories and tags and things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and hit publish, because the thing I really want to show you, if you go to appearance, so you've got several options under appearance. I'm going to talk about themes in just a minute, but I want to click on customize, because there's something really useful you can do. So I've just created an About Me page which basically introduces the reader to me, which tells the reader about me. So that's the primary thing I want people to see when they actually go to my site. And my computer is not the fastest computer in the world, so it's taking a little while, but that's okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is click on Homepage Settings. Now right now it's set to display my latest post, which is why post 1 is shown here. But I want to select a static page, and I want to select About Me. And then click Publish. So then if we go back to the page itself, when I refresh this page, this is now what people will see when they go to my site. They'll see About Me with my semi-professional picture there. And so that's exactly what I want people to see. So I recommend doing that so that that puts the information about you front and center. And then they can still access posts over here. Along with that, so other things you may want to think about. We saw before when we registered the site that we chose a title for the site. So under this site identity menu, this is where you could change that. You may also, or probably also, want to change the tagline, because they default to just another Penn State site, or just another sites at Penn State site. So I'm going to change that to professional writing. So this is part of the brand of this website, the personal brand that I'm building here. And I've clicked publish. So again, when we go back to this website, that'll now show up. You can change the color scheme if you want to through here. You can choose a header image, background image if you want to, but those aren't necessarily required. You can adjust the menus. But before we get into all of those things, I want to take us back to themes. So for those of you who don't know what themes are, these are sort of pre-built aesthetics for websites. So there's a lot of them to choose from. What I would suggest, because of the requirements of this project, because you have to have a home page, or you have to have a professional page about yourself, and because you have to have multiple articles, I would choose something that has very distinct menu options. So I'm going to go ahead and activate 14 Glassy, just arbitrarily. You can choose a different theme if you want to, and you can customize themes, so you're not locked into that default. So this is the basic structure for a site, but when I switch to 14 Glassy, what you'll see, hopefully, is that everything is reconfigured. Should get there eventually. Again, my computer is not super fast, so this is okay. So while that's working, I'm going to take you to another thing that you may want to be aware of. So under settings, come on, there it is. Okay, so we'll go back to settings in just a second. So again, we've switched up the theme here, but the same basic components of the site exists. The base site is about me, so we have that professional information that right at the beginning. Then we've got posts over here. So if we wanted to look at post 1, that would be my first article that I've written. It's available right here. The other thing, so one of the things that you want to try and navigate when you're looking at different themes is where different information is. So posts are up here, pages are up here. So we've got the About Me page, which is also the home page for this, but we've also got the sample page. And this is the default thing that Penn State sites will create for you. Again, I would delete this, but if you want to create a page of, let's say you've got a gallery of interior design work, you could create a page called gallery or something like that, or portfolio. Let's say you have some sort of project that you've been working on for an internship or something like this, and there's digital materials. You could create a page about that, and then it will be stable. It'll be linked up here. Again, different templates are going to have different approaches, but that's something you basically want to be aware of. Give me just a second, because I know there is a place where you can change your privacy settings, and I wanted to show you that very quickly. And for some reason, I'm not immediately able to find it. Anyway, so I don't think I'm going to immediately be able to find it. I know I said I'd show you that, but in the interests of keeping this video reasonably not too long, I think I'm pretty much going to leave it there. So I think I've covered the main things. No. I think I've covered the main things that you need to know. So places you really want to be aware of are posts, which again is where you will write and publish your articles, the 3 articles required for this project. Pages, where you at the very least want to build an About Me page. And then some of the appearance sections. You want to make sure your website is navigable, make sure it's clear, make sure it's accessible, make sure it's visually interesting, etc., etc.